Hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Cassie Nall and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Let's start with a look at our top weather stories. Severe weather moved across East Tennessee last Thursday the 6th with damaging winds, large hail, flash flooding and tornadoes. One of the hardest hit areas was Morgan County, where an EF2 tornado swept through Deer Lodge. Reporter Emily Crabtree brings us the story of a woman that survived the storm by taking shelter just in time.
The woman who lives in this home behind me says she's blessed to be alive after a tornado hit her home.
Brittany Hines has lived at this home in Morgan County for 10 years. But when a storm came through Thursday night, she says something felt off.
There was something about this one where my grandmother was like, I think it's serious. We were on the phone with each other. I had the news going and it just something didn't seem right.
Just a little while later, a tornado hit her home, right where her bedroom was. She had to take cover in her bathtub. She says her dogs were also acting different right before it hit. She believes one of them was trying to get her to safety.
My dogs were going crazy. One of them was she's a herding dog, and she was trying to herd me to one side of the house, and I took that as a sign.
The tornado left her with a large hole in the roof and trees and debris all over her yard. Now she's working on the cleanup process, but she says she's thankful for the people who have come to help her.
We've gotten a majority of the trees cut and cleaned up today. Now we're just trying to see if we can keep my house dry and fix the roof at this point.
Brittany says she hasn't always taken storms seriously.
Usually I would go to bed and just be like, oh, it's not going to hit me. Don't assume that it won't. I thought it wouldn't hit me because I'm in such a little holler, and the winds, I don't know if it actually hit me, but the winds got me.
But this one made her think twice.
You don't take what you got for granted, because it could be one storm away from just being blown away.
Brittany and her animals are all okay, but she hopes that this makes people take storms more seriously. In Morgan County, I'm Emily Crabtree.
The tornadoes on Thursday were the first on record during the month of February in both Morgan and Granger counties. In fact, our spring severe weather season doesn't typically ramp up until March, April, and May. Now, most of the tornadoes in our area are generally weak, relatively speaking, with 89% of them being EF2 or lower. In fact, the most dangerous part about tornadoes in East Tennessee is that many of them happen after dark. Looking at the chart here of the tornadoes by time, we typically see the severe weather ramp up by or after 5 p.m., I should say, and then there's a little dip by around 10 p.m. However, we still have tornadoes happening overnight. You can see right there, those numbers still stay pretty high until we get into the very early morning hours. Now, Saturday will be our next chance for strong storms in our area, and I'll have more with your forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Across the Midwest and the Northeast, cleanup continues after a winter storm affected the area last weekend. Up to 14 inches of snow fell in upstate New York. Maine and Vermont saw more than 12 inches of snow, and then freezing rain coated that snow, which caused pileups across the area, including Minneapolis and in Indiana. More wintry weather is expected this week. Highway departments are making sure plow drivers get some rest before the next round arrives, and people are living in those areas bracing themselves for more cleanup. In Ohio, the rainfall and snowmelt are causing problems for communities along riverfronts because of ice jams. These happen when large chunks of ice form a dam and block the water flow, which of course can cause flooding. There's also a lot of power behind that ice. Annabelle Childers has the story.
6 days after firefighters first responded to Milan Drive on reports of flooding, the yards of these homes are still submerged in water. And the culprit, the Chagrin River, is still jammed with more than a mile of interlocked ice.
Some pieces are 8. We measured one 14 inches thick yesterday.
Willoughby Hills Fire Chief Robert Gandy says firefighters and the people living here can't do anything but wait and hope the ice slowly thaws.
We don't want it to happen too fast, and we don't want a bunch of precipitation. Otherwise, there is a potential for a pretty catastrophic event for us to have to deal with.
The fire department is working closely with the National Weather Service, which says the ground is frozen, significantly increasing the potential for flooding.
The runoff will enter the river very quickly, which could cause the water levels to rise.
Now, living on Milan Road are those new to the area and the old-timers.
Here's the bridge.
John Lillick has gone through this before, many times actually.
The ice pushed this house right off its foundation.
These are photos he captured in 1977, where this same area filled with ice and water, that time covering cars and trapping people in their homes.
You can see these steep walls on the other side. So when the river floods, it can't spread out in two directions. It's only got one way to go.
And driving down the road, Russell Jade, a 54-year-old Milan Drive resident, stopped. He gave this advice, tongue-in-cheek.
When the river finally does break loose, there's going to be a lot of people needing to learn how to swim.
Near Lexington, Kentucky, heavy snow earlier this week caused all kinds of travel headaches. Hardin County Sheriff John Ward says there were 17 accidents, and now flooding will be a concern as that snow melts and rain falls across the area. Governor Andy Beshear is urging Kentuckians to be safe as river flooding becomes an issue across the Bluegrass State. Now for a little look back at history here in East Tennessee. 65 years ago this week, Knoxville had its largest snow event on record. 17.5 inches of snow fell on February 13th in 1960, burying the city, making that the most snow on record in a single day. Another 1.3 inches fell on the 14th, bringing the two-day total to 18.8 inches. For reference, the snow that we had in January of 2024 totaled about 7 to 10 inches, and it completely shut things down. So take what we experienced last year and then double it. That's what happened back in 1960. Needless to say, folks spent Valentine's Day in 1960 digging out from under 1.5 feet of heavy, wet snow. Additional snow later that month made 1960 the second snowiest February on record, with a total of 23.3 inches of snow. The snowiest February on record was back in 1895. I did some digging, but I just couldn't come up with any video. We didn't have it handy. After the record-setting snow in February of 1960, March was also very wintry that year, with over 20 inches of snow, making it the snowiest March on record. So overall, the winter of 1959 to 1960 was the snowiest on record, with a final total of almost 5 feet of snow for the whole season in the city of Knoxville. There was some big news announced on Monday. Interstate 40 in western North Carolina is expected to reopen by March 1st. Almost 5 months after flooding from Hurricane Helene washed sections of the road away, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced that leaders plan to open one lane in each direction with a low speed limit by the beginning of next month. Crews have been working hard to make the repairs, but the process takes time and money. Duffy says this will be the most expensive emergency relief project in U.S. history.
And as you drive through here, you can see why it's going to be so expensive. Again, a mountain on one side and a river on the other, and you have this road collapse. It's an expensive project, but it's a project that's worth it.
The estimated price tag for that project is around $500 million. Once the North Carolina portion of I-40 reopens on March 1st, folks will be able to complete the drive from Knoxville to Asheville on the interstate. But you'll need to give yourself a lot of extra time due to the slow speeds and high traffic volumes, and it may still be best to take an alternative route if possible. The Tennessee Department of Transportation says the portion of I-40 that was damaged in Tennessee during the flooding is still currently one lane in each direction, but all repairs are expected to be finished by the end of this year. Heavy rain is possible in Cocke County this week, and flooding will be a concern in the same areas that were impacted by Hurricane Helene. Reporter Ellis Rold spoke to people who live near the rivers about how they are preparing for the potential impacts from that rain.
As rain falls over East Tennessee, Cocke County residents have one memory in mind.
It is very impactful still to this day, and it is everywhere else. People still are living in tents here.
Nearly 6 months after Helene, flood warnings across the region are creating a sense of anxiety for neighbors that are still piecing their lives together.
It would be very devastating for something like that to happen again.
Katie LaSalle works at Amazing Grace Consignments in downtown Newport. She says the nearby Pigeon River, just a block away, is unpredictable.
I mean, we can't really say what's going to happen because we're not 100% for sure, and it is in God's will. But we are just praying and hoping that it doesn't get out of control like it did last time.
And down the street sits Fruit Jar Alley and Smith Manus Taxes. Allison Manus owns both, and she still hasn't reopened her clothing store.
Even 6 months later, we're not where we need to be.
Any sort of weather comes with a new feeling, fear.
Now then, it's every day, what's the weather going to be? What's the weather going to be? So yes, we are very, very conscious of the weather daily to make sure that nothing else like this ever happens again.
Since the storm, weather is top of mind, but all they can do is prepare and wait.
We've been very, very, very leery of the weather and what it's going to bring, and just patiently waiting to see what comes.
Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast. Again, we still have the rain moving through the area now. We'll have a break in that rain on both Thursday and Friday. But again, this weekend, weather impact alerts for the back half of Saturday and the first half of Sunday as another chance of both strong storms and heavy rain move through our area, increasing the flood threat once again across the region. Then colder air pours in as we go through the day on Sunday. Our higher elevations could see some snowfall, and then we're reminded that it is in fact still winter with cool temperatures expected as we go into the early parts of next week. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you can always get the very latest with your forecast in the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.